And we are recording right now. Let's do this.
Hey, welcome back to another episode.
Hey, please
She distorted on you, buddy.
Is it? Uh-oh.
It was like one of those scream bands.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast. I am Chris Niemeyer, here with my good friends, Michael McGreevy, Jamie Slingerland. We are guys who are crazy about our wives. We love our kids, and we want to kill it in business. And this podcast is all about those important domains. Our marriage, our family, our finances, the coronavirus, the lockdown, everything is going on. It's in full force, and people are talking about finances a lot these days. And frankly, a lot of people are worried about their finances. So we just want to take this episode to suggest 5 simple actions to financial resilience. Really, if we boil this down, it can be as simple as these actions. So we want to explore that with you today. Michael, just start us off, man. Lead us into this first simple action to build financial resilience.
Yes. And, I think we want to talk about this because during this time when people are being pinched financially, it's become clear who has done these actions and who hasn't. Because if you haven't been following these 5 simple actions, you're probably in a pretty tough spot right now, unless you won the lottery or have a very rich uncle or something. But we're going to dive right in. And the first one, are you guys ready for this? This is revolutionary, hot off the presses, never been shared before. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Be sitting down for this one.
First action, spend less than you earn. What?
You need to actually have money if you want to spend it?
Yeah, if you don't have the dough, don't buy it.
But isn't that what credit cards are for?
Oh, you're not listening. Listen, we didn't say this was easy. We said it was simple, Niemeyer.
Oh, yeah. But that
What a
would
difference.
Would that require that you deny yourself of something? Possibly that nice big frappuccino, chocolate mocha, Starbucks coffee?
Not necessarily. If you have the money, you're allowed to spend it.
Absolutely. This is a simple action, but not so easy when we are bombarded with ideas of what we can buy and what we need to have and what we have to have. Well, sometimes we have to redefine what we have to have. And if we don't have the money, we shouldn't buy it.
So let's dig deeper here a little bit. As a couple, what could you do to take a look at your finances to make sure you're on the same page, frankly, with the need to versus want to? Like, what have you guys done? What's worked in this area for you?
Ruthie and I have done a budget for years. What's worked for us is that you get into this flow of seeing those numbers on paper. And then when something new comes into your life, like a new expense, I know with kids, a baseball league or something like that, we get to realize, okay, do we have enough money that we need to pull something back? Or do we need to, make some more money here? I mean, Forbes was just saying that 80% of workers are living paycheck to paycheck. If you do a budget, you won't live paycheck to paycheck if you just do it for a couple months.
Yeah, and you guys have been a good example of that, Jamie, of having those routine budget type meetings or reviews. Maybe it's annually, maybe it's once a month, who knows? But I know, because I've talked to friends and family in the situation now, that because finances are tight, they're realizing, okay, whoa, we need to start printing out some credit card statements or whatever and go through this really kind of line by line of what's a have to versus a get to, or what's a need versus a want, and really starting to create. And I know a lot of us don't like spreadsheets, or the idea of budget might turn you off, but there's a lot of great programs and software that's out there that's free to create a spending plan, right? Create a plan where you've got to literally spend less than you make. That's the first simple action to financial resilience. It's not easy, but it's worth it to be in a better position financially so you can weather certain storms. And that brings us to the second simple action, which is save 10% of what you earn. Just save it. At least. That should be like a threshold, a minimum. Save 10% of what you earn. Why is that so important, especially in light of kind of what so many Americans are facing now? Why is having a 10% savings rate every month going to be good for you when you need it?
Michael had an amazing example of this. You were reading that book,
The Richest Man in Babylon. Yeah. Well, I think if you wait until you see what you have left and then save that, you're never going to have anything left. Because as humans, we just tend to spend everything that we have. Instead of putting this action at the end of your financial plan for the month, let it be the first action. You take that first 10%, put it away into a different account that you don't touch, and then you work with the money that you have left over. A couple cool things happen here. If you happen to not have enough money because of that money that you put aside, your mind's going to automatically begin to go to work and think about how can I generate more money or how can I save more money to make my finances work. And guess what's not being affected by that? That 10% that is already gone. I started doing this very religiously, and this is whether I had the money or didn't have the money in any given month. But as I've done this, it's built up and built up and built up. And here we are in this very challenging time during this pandemic, and I have a nice little chunk of money sitting there that I've been saving for months and months and months, and I'm not freaking out because that brings some peace. And if I have to use it, I can to get through this difficult time. And I wasn't saving that money because I had a huge surplus. It was just because I chose to put that away first. How about you guys? What do you think about saving 10% or more of your money?
As you were sharing that, I thought it reminded me of that Warren Buffett quote that he says, when the tide goes out, you can tell who is skinny dipping. That's just really encouraging to hear you just know what you've done personally, because I mean, you have a level of peace and you have a potentially stressful situation where you're building, remodeling another house. And
yeah,
now with income, everybody's affected now with the pandemic. Income has slowed down for, I would probably say most of us, right?
A key part of that is when you do feel that financial stress, instead of going to your money to go take that stress away, I'm not touching that savings unless I absolutely have to. It's helping me channel that stress that comes through the pandemic to creativity and ways of generating more income instead of just bailing myself out. So I don't look at this savings account as a chunk of cash that I can use for my renovation or to keep things moving forward with what I'm doing on my house. Heck no, this is savings. So this is untouchable. My mind's going to work and thinking, how can I develop more money and be more creative? And I have a whole lot more motivation to do that.
Yeah, a key point here too is there's a lot of various numbers that people throw around of, aim for a certain cushion, right? Some people call it an emergency fund, but whether that's 3 months, 6 months, a year's worth of expenses to be your goal to save toward. But you're right, Michael, that's absolutely like an emergency fund. Like, do you need to take off a little of that from time to time if absolutely needed? Okay, that's what it's there for. But you're right that as you see that grow, and if you already put that 10% away and you're living on that other 90, you're going to find ways when there could be a gap to try to increase your opportunity for making other money because you don't want to touch it. And the other point here too is don't just throw that under the mattress, right? I mean, what are we talking about doing with some of this money? Right now, savings interest accounts are like 0.01%, right? There's nothing. I like to take this example that you're this financial action and actually put that money to work for me. Have that money create more money, which I know on this screen, we're all doing in various ways with real estate. Now I've got a couple rental properties. You guys do Airbnbs. So that money is there in an asset that's producing more money.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah, the mattress doesn't pay you back much, especially after inflation. And we have a little bump in inflation coming.
Yes, we do. And if that's a big wad of cash, you're not going to sleep all night. You'll have a crink in your back in the morning too.
That's right. Okay, well, let's get into this third financial action.
Simple action.
Well,
Don't
let's call
forget
it simple.
the simple. These are not hard.
Yeah, they are not complicated, but they are difficult. Third one is to give 10% or more of every dollar you earn.
Even if we're struggling financially, like even if our income goes down, we're still supposed to give. Come on.
Especially if your income is going down and you're struggling. If you're not giving, you are jamming up the flow of money in your life, my friend.
Keep on giving.
Yeah, you gotta give.
You want it to be like a river, like flowing. The money's coming, you're also giving. If you stop that up, you are going to be pond scum, and you do not want to be pond scum. Give freely. You just it's an example. And we've heard people in the financial world talk about this before, and a friend of ours was mentioning how one of the themes, one of the commonalities between a lot of people's wealth was that they give consistently. They give a percentage consistently. And sometimes those that are gripping tight to whatever assets they have, there's a mindset, there's a mentality there that can trip us up on finances versus opening, being able to be loose and free and giving with that money is just a different approach. So I like that example.
Yeah, it's a good question to ask. I mean, if your income has dried up completely, ask yourselves this. When's the last time you've been generous? It's probably been a while, right? It says in Malachi 3:10, bring the whole tithe, that's the 10%, into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. Give me some of that.
That
sounds good.
Right there, huh?
I want the floodgates to be open in my life.
Absolutely.
I'm not a Bible scholar, but I've heard it said that is the only place in Scripture where God uses that phrase, test me in this. Like it's actually a challenge that he gives us, which is pretty cool, right? Like, wow, there's going to be a test and a blessing and a flow that's going to come when you accept that challenge.
Hey, cool. So since we're passing around the ball here of leadership, I'm going to take the next simple action, if you don't mind, Nima. Is that cool?
It's cool.
All right. So number 4 is to increase our assets and reduce our liabilities. We take our definition of what an asset is and what a liability is from Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. Michael, you want to expand a little bit more on that, buddy?
Yeah, this is really complex. Once again, Robert Kiyosaki says that an asset is something that puts money in your pocket, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So don't get that confused. A lot of people think their house is an asset. Well, let's look at your finances. How much are you spending a month to live there? Utilities, upkeep, renovations, taxes, garbage, all the expenses that go into living in a house usually make it a liability rather than an asset. So look at everything that you have in your life, and it's time to identify what is an asset and what is a liability. And you want to increase your number of assets, things that put money in your pocket, and decrease the number of things that take money out of your pocket. Simple enough, right?
It's simple, but I'll just share and tell you guys that when I first heard this, I had to work on my mindset. It's just a complete paradigm shift that I would say very few people grab onto or even understand. So I think we operate differently when we tell ourselves, oh, I want to get some assets. Because I found myself in the spot where I didn't have any at all. Because my house payment, I was telling myself, this is my biggest investment. And so, I mean, I made decisions differently after that. You know, Ruthie and I, we bought a duplex in Buffalo. Probably, I think that was the main reason where I wanted to tell myself that I was moving in the right direction. Because before that, I was just saying, okay, you know, it's bad to rent because you're throwing away money, but really you're throwing away money for your whole life if you just only tell yourself that your house is your only asset.
Yeah, you know, I've actually coached a couple of guys and some friends around this topic, and I use this approach to even gamifying this. And so take a look at your budget and what it is that takes and consumes your own finances every month, try to find ways to build up an asset that could pay for a portion of what you have as expense. So maybe it's starting out and you've got a chunk of change and you find a good CD or savings account that can cover a night in the town, a date night with your wife, right? Hey, that's cool. But getting to these other areas where you can say, okay, I'm going to buy a rental property that's going to cover our groceries for the entire month, every month. And that's going to continue to increase over time through inflation, appreciation. Eventually I get a couple more of those. That's going to now take care of our groceries, our current mortgage that we're in, maybe something else. So approaching in that way where you get to kind of gamify, like I want to take one asset here that's going to completely take care of all my utilities. And I want to build another asset here that's going to completely take care of my mortgage because I got to live somewhere. It's just a great way to, if you could get to a goal of having various assets replace all of your true monthly income of what your living expenses are, it's kind of a fun way to approach this topic.
Yeah, no doubt. And sometimes even learning a new skill can be an asset too, right? That's why we talk about investing in ourselves so much. If you learn a new skill that can generate money for you, that's putting money back in your pocket. So that's also can be an investment. But yeah, I'm constantly thinking about different things that I can do that can generate money consistently and grow my asset column.
Yeah, it's also a great way to get out of debt. If you're in a spot where you really want to shake off credit card debt and student loans, to look at the items that are already liabilities, like a house payment or a car payment, or, you're paying insurance and gas anyway. I know. So people use their house, they rent it out on Airbnb. So they take something that's a liability and turn it into a partial asset. Same thing with using your car to deliver something or do Uber.
Yeah, those are great examples. Everyone typically has a house and a car. Those are opportunities now in our economy where you could use that mostly liability for an asset. And it just brings us to our final simple action for financial resilience, and that is building a business. Michael, you mentioned this in terms of creating a skill or learning a new skill or finding ways to increase what it is that you're doing. But building a business is really it's a secret to wealth building. In fact, I was just looking here earlier, but there's no single billionaire on the billionaire list of the world, right? That's a worker. And that includes celebrities. That includes athletes. They're business people. They have a business. And that's the common theme among any billionaire and most of the upper top people, if you wanted to say that, is they have found ways to build businesses. Again, it's an asset, but it also lowers your tax liability. And there's fundamental ways that a business is hugely important to build financial resilience. What have you guys found in building your own business that helps?
I mean, there's a reason we're all entrepreneurs here. It's because of what it does for our finances. And it has so many benefits. Now, consult a tax professional on how to set up a business and make it work for you. We are not experts at that. But I will say that as just an employee, your money goes a whole lot less far than it could if you're a business owner, because that money has already been taxed once, and then you go to invest it again. You're dealing with a whole lot lower number once you finally invested as an employee. But within a business, when you're living a good portion of your life through your business, because they overlap, your travel overlaps, some of the items that you purchase for your business can be used in personal cases as well. And so at the end of the day, your income might look a whole lot lower, but you're living a whole lot higher quality of life because of what living through your business makes possible.
Yeah, if there's any like IRS tax auditor, Michael, you might want to retract that statement that you said. Be a little careful in the language. Right?
You said consult your tax professional on
Very
this.
vague.
But I know what you were saying, Michael. You're essentially saying like having a business absolutely reduces your tax liability. I mean, when you take that money in through a business pre-tax, you are spending it in different ways to increase your business income potential, increase your own skill set potential. And there's hard costs that I wouldn't say maybe overlap, but there's hard costs that are usable in both categories. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody, one of my good friends that used to drive Uber. Even though he didn't make a lot of money driving Uber, it was pretty much tax-free because he had moved to Nashville and it was in between jobs. He made about $20,000 in a year tax-free because the reason was that he was spinning the wheels off of an old car that he already had. Having a business was definitely a way for him to take more money home at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's true. It's a simple truth. Our country and most governments actually incentivize you to create a business. So take a look at that. Do it. There's ways, even in this trying time, maybe you've got a little extra time on your hands where you could invest in yourself, start putting yourself out there and offering those skill sets to those. You can start as a sole proprietor. You can create a LLC or business entity if you want to, but there's a lot out there that can really improve this. So as we normally do, what about you? We've talked today about these 5 simple actions to take toward financial resilience. And let's just go over them because, again, they're so simple, but they require some work. They require your focus. They require the focus of your spouse to get involved with this, potentially even the kids. This is a great way to come together as a family on your finances. So number 1, spend less than you make. Get that budget out. Start looking at line by line what you can do. Number 2, saving 10% of what you earn. Get it to work for you. Watch that grow. Watch what it'll do to your mindset. And number 3, giving 10%. This is key. This often gets left out, but giving 10% is a way to keep that money flowing, that mindset of giving freely out of an abundance mindset. Number 4, increasing your assets, decreasing your liabilities. And finally, part of the entrepreneurial family man is this entrepreneurial piece of building a business. For you, what's it going to be? Where do you need to start this week on one of these 5 simple actions to take toward financial resilience?